Is Formula One finally ready to ditch the tyre snoozefests? After years of one-stop parades and strategy-free Sundays, Pirelli is pulling off the gloves and maybe, just maybe, bringing the fight back to the pit wall. The tyre supplier is changing its game in 2025, rolling out softer compounds and riskier choices in a bid to end the predictable, yawn-inducing races that have plagued recent seasons. But will this new rubber revolution finally give us the unpredictable chaos we crave, or just blow up in everyone's face? Ever since Pirelli took the reins as Formula One's exclusive tyre supplier in 2011, the rubber on the road has sparked more debates than a Ferrari strategy call. Unlike Bridgestone before them, who built tyres that could survive a war zone, Pirelli was handed a curveball. F1 didn't want invincible tyres. They wanted rubber that wore out. Why? To spice up the show. And credit to them, Pirelli took that challenge like a driver diving down the inside at turn 1. Now, designing tyres that purposely degrade isn't exactly what you'd call standard industry practice. Most tyre makers are out here bragging about longevity, making sure your road trip outlasts your playlist. Pirelli, though, they were asked to make tyres that crumble under pressure, quite literally, and in the early days, it backfired. Blistering, blowouts, chaos in races. It wasn't long before they found themselves in the crosshairs of angry team bosses and worried fans. But fast forward a few years and you've got to hand it to them. They've stuck through the madness. While F1 teams have turned their cars into near-infallible machines, Pirelli's rubber has had to keep up with cars pulling G-forces like fighter jets and burning through tyres like a Sunday BBQ. For 2025, Pirelli decided to widen the rubber playground, introducing 6 tyre compounds to keep up with the wildly different personalities of F1 tracks. From high-speed Suzuka to stop-start Monaco, the Italian supplier wanted something for every curveball the calendar could throw. Mario Isola, Pirelli's top man, came out swinging early in the season, saying the new range offers better performance gaps between compounds and, crucially, less graining and overheating. Basically, they're trying to give teams tyres that stay cool under pressure, literally and figuratively. But there's a twist in the tread. Despite all this careful planning, Pirelli's dream of engineering races that naturally require 2 pit stops hasn't quite hit the mark. So far, not a single dry weather race has played out that way. In Australia, the 2-stopper was forced, not by degradation, but by a mix of weather roulette and safety car interludes that jumbled the strategy deck for everyone. So, while the result looked like a win for tyre strategy, it was more chaos theory than compound choice. Then came China, and Pirelli threw in a surprise move that had the paddock raising eyebrows. They brought tyres that were a step harder than the ones used in 2024, despite the track being resurfaced. Strange call, right? With just one practice session, no one touched the hard tyre, worried it would fall apart faster than a rookie's first Q1 lap. But come race day, the degradation was practically nil. Verstappen, always one to manage tyres like he's playing chess 3 moves ahead, might have left a bit too much performance in the medium compound during his first stint, and it showed as he lost time to the leaders. The Suzuka GP followed, and again Pirelli went with the toughest rubber in their arsenal. On paper, it made perfect sense. Suzuka's high-speed corners and brutal braking zones are usually tyre killers, but even Japan didn't play by the book this year. Thanks to the resurfaced track, tyre wear was almost non-existent, so much so that even McLaren's Andrea Stella couldn't hide his surprise, hinting that the compounds were way too conservative for what turned out to be a remarkably tame surface. Andrea Stella didn't mince his words after the Japanese Grand Prix. In his view, the new Suzuka surface robbed McLaren of an edge. "I'd have preferred the old-school Suzuka, honestly," he admitted. "On the previous surface, our car's strengths would have shone through, but when tyres barely degrade, everyone's on equal footing, and that levels out our advantage." That frustration was echoed across the grid, especially from George Russell, who summed it up with a jab that hit the nail on the head. "These last 2 weekends have been tyre strategy snoozefests. The compounds are just too hard for these newly resurfaced tracks. One-stop races all around, and that sucks the life out of the strategy game." Still, there's hope for a bit more spice in Bahrain, where the same trio of hardest Pirelli compounds is back. Unlike Suzuka though, Bahrain's no tyre-friendly dance floor. It's like sandpaper with corners, and the high track temperatures are notorious for chewing up rubber like a kid with a bag of gummy bears. So McLaren, and probably the rest of the grid, might actually welcome the tougher rubber here, knowing it'll finally be tested. Worth noting though, all these early season tyre choices weren't made on a whim. Pirelli had to lock in selections for the opening 5 races before a single wheel turned this year. That's the reality of moving hundreds of tons of tyres across the Pacific in time. Still, it's only at the final leg of this triple header, Saudi Arabia, where we'll see the first meaningful deviation from 2024's script. This time time around, Pirelli's going softer, a clear pivot from last year's one-stop parade. Whether that opens up strategy battles or just hands the win to whoever manages tyre temps, best remains to be seen. But at least we're finally mixing up the compounds. Mario Isola laid it out with brutal clarity. Back in 2024, 18 out of 20 drivers started the race on the C3 mediums. But thanks to an early safety car, 14 of them immediately switched to the harder C2s, and that was that. One stop, no drama, no risk, no strategic curveballs. This year though, Pirelli's flipping the script with a softer compound selection. The idea, shake things up. Maybe force teams to gamble between a one-stop and a two-stop, maybe inject some tension back into the Sunday chess match. And the push for more entertaining races isn't stopping there. Pirelli's latest tyre choices for Miami and Imola, just revealed, will also be a step softer than last year's. These were both one-stop processions in 2024, barely memorable outside of a few DRS duels. But now, Pirelli seems to be responding not just to engineers with spreadsheets, but to fans who want more than just tyre-saving trains. They're chasing unpredictability, giving strategy back its teeth. As each race weekend passes, the 2025 tyre compounds are slowly showing their true colours in real-world conditions. Pirelli's learning on the fly, adjusting where needed, and not pretending to have all the answers up front. Japan, for example, may not have delivered fireworks in terms of action, but it did give drivers something rare. A race where they could push flat out, lap after lap, without nursing the tyres like they were made of porcelain. Even Isola admitted the contradiction. Sure, Suzuka wasn't the most thrilling spectacle, but the drivers loved it, he said. They were able to keep lowering their lap times right up to the final laps of each stint. It's a tricky balancing act. Build tyres that promote action without making drivers tiptoe around the grip. But if there's one thing clear from all this, it's that Pirelli's trying to steer the show toward better racing without losing the plot on safety or performance. The tyres are learning. So is the team behind them. But let's not forget how we got here. The tyre blowouts of the past, those infamous failures that had the paddock fuming, pushed Pirelli into playing it safe. For years, they leaned on harder compounds to avoid the risk of dramatic failures mid-race. That caution came at a cost. The trade-off: less excitement, fewer strategic gambles, and races that felt more like processions than battles. Yet after back-to-back strategy snoozers in China and Japan, something's changed. You can feel it. Pirelli is finally loosening the leash. Their decision to bring softer compounds to high-speed venues like Jeddah, Miami, and Imola is a clear sign they're willing to take a few risks to spice up the show. With 6 compounds now in the toolbox for 2025, they're not here to play it safe. They're testing the full range while the season's still young. And then there's Monaco. Ah yes, the crown jewel of boredom unless it rains. But this year, things might just get spicy. Pirelli's C6, brand new, super soft, and the stickiest compound on offer, is expected to make its debut. And here's the kicker. Monaco will have a mandatory two-stop strategy. Considering last year's top 10 finished in the exact order they started, this is F1's way of saying enough is enough. Bring on the chaos. Bring on some racing. If all goes well at the circuits where Pirelli's rolled the dice with softer rubber, that success will ripple into future races. The more data they gather now, the better they can fine-tune tyre choices for the second half of the year. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, we'll see strategy become the wild card it was always meant to be, not the safe bet it's been for too long. Do you think Pirelli should keep playing it safe with harder tyres? Or should they go all in on softer compounds to bring strategy and unpredictability back to Formula One? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, goodbye for now.